Righto, welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast. My name is Matt Hunter, and this is episode number 11. Famous number 11s, boys. Off the bat, I'm thinking John Olamu, Daniel Vittori. Anyone else that gets to mind?
Sort of the New Zealand marshmallow pad, Chris Martin would be a real famous number 11.
Yeah, Joan is obviously the first one that came to mind, but I don't mind that we change attack there, Jacko, on the good famous 11s. Glenn McGrath, pretty famous 11.
Nice. Anyways, so as you can gather, the boys are back. We've got Jacko and Lugsy here. If you do enjoy this podcast and you want to support us, please do like, subscribe, rate and review. It helps cause. If you want to help us out even more, find us on patreon.com/maximumcricket. But in the meantime, sit back, grab yourself your favourite snack and enjoy some idiots talking about the game we act like we hate, but really we love.
It's a yes bank maximum, the first of this contest. Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Lugsy and Jacko, welcome back. Tonight I'm running a wee boysenberry ripple block of chocolate for a wee snack tonight. What have you guys got? I know, Lugsy, you have a few. Jacko, it is the morning for you, so it's a little bit tough.
Quite a versatile, one of the staple breakfast, but also sort of well known in our circles as one of the great snacks. Just a couple of bits of Vegemite toast, actually. Just a lovely way to start the day. White bread, butter, Vegemite, perfect.
Real underrated snack there. Yeah, I've just obviously devoured my classic Monday hushy. Nicely put along from Emma, one of the crew that heads along, was this beautiful Biscoff cheesecake. Really quite something. And even the cream that went with it was sort of a high-level cream. So, yeah, obviously not feeling the best at the moment. Stomach's feeling like it's going to explode, but good to go.
Has anyone else had this boysenberry block of chocolate, the old Tip Top and Cadbury one? It's
yeah.
I'm not even a big block of chocolate fan, but this one just gets me going.
Yeah, not a bad block at all. I had a bit of marble before as well. I'm still enjoying a bit of marble, I have to say.
Yeah. Marble is one of the all-time blocks.
You know what they have to do is start bringing that boysenberry out in the smaller. I don't think they do it in the small block yet, do they?
No, I think it's just this big one. Yeah.
Yeah, we need it at that sort of 90-cent price point at Pack and Save. And I'll obviously step right up to a few.
You won't have a block, but you'll have 4 single bars.
Oh, and look, I would never eat 2 pies, but I'll have 47 savouries.
Very good, boys. And everything all good. Jacko, you mentioned your last week in Scotland. You head into a Caps game, which would be nice.
Yeah. Hopefully get along to a couple of games, watch the boys, which would be good. So nice week ground. They play the international games out here. So yeah, no, it should be good. Funnily enough, they reckon it's quite bumpy, and Scotland starts 15 runs up on their opposition because they know it's bumpy and the others don't. Interesting to see the Cats at need 15. But yeah, hopefully they go well. So yeah, it'd be nice to see some international group while I'm here.
Very good. And I guess, speaking of the Caps, the squads have been named for the tour of West Indies coming up. And the big talking points, I guess, will be all the big guns are back, which is exciting preparation for the T20 World Cup. So I'll just list it here. We've got obviously Williamson, Allen, Conway, Guptill, Latham, Mitchell, Phillips, Bracewell, Neesham, Santner, Sodhi, Bolt, Ferguson, Henry, and Tim Southey. So I've got a couple of talking points, but we can obviously go in any direction we want. So the big ones, obviously, Williamson, Conway, Bolt, Southey, back in, 4 big dogs. Nichols and Will Young out. More of a surprise than Duffy and Tickner out. And the other one is sort of Finn Allen stays. So those are the sort of talking points I've got. Jacko, what did you make of that squad?
Probably very interesting on the squad with probably no Henry Nichols in particular. I mean, he's been sort of a staple in that one-day side for a few years now. It's probably the crux of picking a team to do both the T20s and the one-days because, I mean, the Caps haven't really they've sort of split those squads for the last few years. So I suppose crunch times happen and a few players have missed out. But yeah, interesting call that they obviously see Finn Allen as quite a versatile option in the top, and then Daryl Mitchell as that sort of Swiss Army knife somewhere in that order. So bit of a big call there. But yeah, obviously the lads just wanted a week Caribbean holiday and they're off for a few weeks in the Caribbean, which will be lovely.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Henry Nichols was the biggest name, the biggest sort of omission, and read a wee interview with Gary Stead, who basically reiterated what Jacko said there with they were looking at a team for both the T20s and the ODIs. So I assume he's sort of still a big part of our plans in the ODI, but they don't see him so much in the T20s. But yeah, I think good to see the full strength side back. Probably getting to that time now where we've got to focus in on our best sort of 11 or 12 and get our best side out there for this T20 World Cup. So good time to start picking our best side. And as Jacko said, sort of a wee holiday in the Caribbean isn't too foul either.
Yeah, that must have been a bit of a catalyst. It'd be interesting to see if these tours were like reversed, if the Caribbean one was first and the European one was second, if these big dogs still wanted to play the second half, because
no, I'd say that would be switched.
A trip to the Caribbean must be an absolute highlight for an international cricketer, surely.
The first time we've been there since like 2014 or something, I think, is the first time we've been there.
Is it?
So,
Yeah, it does feel like a while.
Holiday.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
But I think you guys sort of pointed it out with the fixtures being so condensed. I think Gary Stead said that there's in 2 weeks' time they're playing like 6 games basically, like just back to back. So they obviously, with the World Cup being so close, the T20 World Cup, they decided to put maybe a bit more emphasis on T20 skills. But also, it did feel like with Nichols and Young going, it did feel like a shift in sort of the power game. Like they want guys that can clear the rope a bit more. Because I guess like Finn Allen, like it's one of those things, and it's the biggest cliche like that a commentator can say. But like he looks better than the average suggests. Because he certainly like there's just
don't we all?
we all do like some like I've always been a big bugbearer of that, sometimes it's an average, that's what they are. But this time I kind of get what they're saying, because he looks like someone that could just take the game away, could win you a game of cricket by himself, and they want to give him every opportunity to do that from his young, which I do like. Yeah, Nichols is probably a bit unlucky. I thought the other thing was interesting is the bowlers. Like, obviously, Bolton's how they come in. Duffy and Tickner miss out, unfortunately. But I'm not sure we're sort of building the depth and fast bowling that we probably want. Because I don't know how many more years of Bolton Southey we've got. They're playing every format. They're not spring chickens anymore. When they retire, are we ready to go? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, obviously, this is probably the tour that starts that load up to the World Cup. So you've sort of got to look at that World Cup and go, we're going to try and win that. We obviously have these players that are going to do it. So yeah, you've probably got to pick your best 11. I suppose that's what the tour that they're on at the moment has sort of been a little bit about, is building those stocks up. But yeah, I think those guys, your Duffys, your Tickners, even the likes of that Ben Sears, going to have lots of opportunities sort of coming up if these schedules stay the way they are, and that sort of players are resting because of the bubble environment. So I think there's going to be opportunities for it. But yeah, I think just a couple of that next level guys will need to step up on a couple of those tours and prove that they are the sort of heir apparents to the Southern Bolt crown.
Yeah, it is. It's a good point, and it is a tough one because obviously at this stage we're still trying to win games, and when you're trying to win games, you've got to pick your best team.
Well,
so it is hard to get that balance right, though. These guys will go, and it's probably sooner than later that they are going to go. But at the moment, when you're talking a T20 World Cup, I think you've still got to pick your best side, and those guys are in that. Obviously, in the ODIs, I think that was probably, as we pointed out last, that was probably a bit of a disappointment. No one really stepped up in those Irish ODIs of the bowlers. Matt Henry done well. Yeah, it is a hard one. I see what you're saying. We are probably lacking that next sort of crop of young fast bowlers. But as Jacko said, hopefully, as these schedules seem to be more and more cricket, they are going to start getting more and more chances.
Yeah, that's it. That's well said. And at the end of the day, they're gonna try and win this World Cup if they can. They got very close last year, and hopefully they can go one better. So just looking forward, I guess if we kind of do a blanket review of the Blackcaps Ireland T20 series, because we touched on the ODIs, and it was the same result here, 3-0, but it was probably like a very good dominant performance from New Zealand, and probably all three games, like particularly with the bat, definitely made up for the rugby. I thought definitely. I can imagine there's a lot of rugby fans all over the country feeling a lot better about just sport in general. Having beat them 6-0 in white ball cricket, we'll give up a 2-1 home rugby result, I would have thought. But yeah, no, impressive. It's actually going to be quite impressive because the T20 side does seem to be tracking well. We'll start with the batting lineup. It's probably the biggest question mark because you got Williamson and Conway coming in, and the last batting lineup was Guptill, Allen, Cleaver, Phillips, Daryl Mitchell, Neesham, Bracewell at 7, and then Santner at 8. So man of the series was Glenn Phillips. He scored about 150 odd runs in that. He was obviously the best bat. Dane Cleaver's not in the squad, so he's going to miss out. So my question is, where does Williamson and Conway bat? And have you got room for two sort of, I guess, workers of the ball?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Kane's probably got to come in about 3, I think. That's probably his best spot. I like when Kane opens in T20s personally. I think there's a spot for... He's just good enough to sort of strike at 120 without taking big risks. That's just a personal opinion. But I think he will bat at 3. Maybe Conway at 4, Phillips at 5. And then you're sort of looking at a Neesham, Daryl and Santner 2, and Bracewell potentially 3 of those 4 filling out that middle to lower order would probably be my estimate, because I think Conway will probably keep by looking at that squad potentially. So yeah, I suppose that's probably how I see it. It's probably going to be tough, unlucky on even a Bracewell or a Daryl in that sort of setup, or a Neesham or whoever's missing out. But it's probably just going to be one of those all rounders with Kane and Conway at 4 and 5, and then 3 and 4, and then that fireworks and bit of consistency out of Glenn Phillips at 5.
Yeah, I don't mind that with the shout of Kane opening. As you say, good enough player to still work it around, and especially in a run chase situation, seems to time those very well every time. But yeah, I don't know. If they're really going all in on Finn Allen, there's still these Scottish games that might still do something for a few of these players. Then it will be good to see him and Guptill get a real chance to open and sort of do it consistently leading up to this World Cup. Obviously, the more cricket you play, the more sort of at home you start feeling. So then, yeah, we'll go down to the middle order is where someone's going to have to miss out. For, as we said, Bracewell probably overtook Phillips in that as Ireland ODIs. But obviously, Phillips has bounced back with some runs. They sort of, as I said, they seem to be in there doing the same job, Phillips and Bracewell, with a few overs of spin, but there might be room to fit them both in. Their middle orders where it's going to get congested, I guess, and someone's going to miss out.
Probably going to depend. I think Jacko's probably right. Williamson's probably going to be at 3. I would be interested to see where Conway bats, because if I'm looking at this batting lineup now, if they had Conway opening the batting instead of Finn Allen, and then you had Guptill, Conway, Williamson, then you had Phillips at 4, Mitchell 5, Neesham 6, Bracewell at 7. That gives you a lot of power from 4 down, like a lot of guys that can clear the rope. And I just wonder if that's the way the game's heading, unless someone like Phil Allen takes the game away and scores a lot of runs where he becomes undroppable. And I think they might give him that opportunity, because the best version of Finn Allen could be like he could take the World Cup by storm. So, but I do think like if Conway opens, like I think he did that in the IPL, it's going to give him the best chance to score a lot of runs. You know, I think he's like Bubba Azam sort of potential, like levels. So, and if they don't, if he bats 4, then essentially Phillips, Mitchell, Neesham, Bracewell, one of them will miss out, and it might depend on turn or what the pitch does. You might want an extra spinner of Bracewell, you might want the extra seamer of Neesham, I don't know, but all those guys deserve it, and it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Conway opening is definitely a great point. I mean, if he's done it in the IPL, I mean, Finn Allen, not the sort of tested commodity at international level yet, so he sort of might be there just as that builder's experience and be that batting cover. But, I mean, Conway opening, sort of similar position to Williamson. He's just good enough to score a lot of runs, especially with the field up, isn't he?
I think, as you said, Munter, and the game is heading in that power direction, and especially the T20s. when you're thinking, you really want to pick a team and look at the team and think, how many of these guys can score a quick 80 or 100 and win the game? And you sort of want 4 or 5 in your top 7 to be able to do that. And you just hope 1 or 2 to come off every game. So, I mean, your depth in batting doesn't need to be necessarily strong. You just need players who can take the game away just for one innings. Sometimes that's all it takes in the T20.
Yeah, there's different approaches. Like India and England are probably the 2 best teams, and they have a similar approach where they have sort of 8 batsmen, and they all just go nuts.
Yeah.
And they just sort of they're of the opinion that it's just hard to bowl a team out in 20 overs. So one of them, like 2 or 3 of them, are going to come off. That's sort of the theory.
Yeah.
It's hard if you've got too many guys that work it around, soaking up balls. That plan doesn't kind of work. So it will be interesting to see where we go. Because obviously, I mean, it's not like our tactic hasn't worked. Like we did get to the World Cup final. So it's not like we're not playing well. So, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Quite looking forward to the West Indies tour, actually. It's a fun place to tour. Like just from some of their teams growing up that was so strong. So I'm looking forward to a wee West Indies tour.
Yeah, I think it's on a nice time as well.
Yeah, it is.
It might be like sort of mid-morning in New Zealand, which is quite nice.
Yeah, a bit better than this Irish stuff.
Yeah.
West Indies are a nice sort of litmus test as well, I reckon. They always sort of T20 cricket, coming into World Cups, they're always that dark horse contender. So it's actually probably a nice little measuring stick for the boys.
This will be quite good, especially for the bowlers, I think. You know, that's a team. Obviously, West Indies have a lot of power, more than most, that's for sure. So if the boys get it wrong, you know, we'll be going for a few, that's for sure. Bit of a rejig in the order. I'm going to go into out and not out because we're going to have an extended coach corner at the end. Obviously, you know, you have to live under a rock to not realise that there was a record broken over the week. A fella by the name of Sam Northeast made 410 not out. 410 not out of 450 rocks. I believe the first time since someone had passed 400 since Brian Lara, of all people, ironically. Now, my question is, they actually won that game, which is quite cool. They actually won that game, which is, well, kind of cool. But my question for you guys is, should he have continued on to try and break Brian Lara's 501, or were they right in declaring and going for the win? Now, there's a case here. So obviously, the pro for declaring is that gives them a chance to win and all that sort of stuff. And they did win the game, which is quite cool. But in about 5-10 years, or maybe tomorrow, how many people are going to remember how many runs that guy got, or are they going to remember the result of that match? And now, is that a missed opportunity in my book? So I'll leave that up to you guys, because this could go in any direction, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight, them winning the game is always going to sort of confirm it was the right decision from a cricketing sense. But just from that chance at 500, it's tough not to, I guess, think about giving that bloke a chance. Interesting that team sort of rolled over, because there was about 1,000 runs for sort of 12 wickets, and then they've been bowled out for 190. So
that doesn't make sense,
Nah, all things are sort of pointing for a draw, and they're sort of, we've got like an afternoon to bowl them out. We might as well give it a crack, sort of thing. Their captain probably, if he's honest, didn't see them winning that game. He just thought we'll have a chance. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough looking there, because I mean, 400's a long way to get to not have a crack at 500. And I mean, you could have said just start swinging, and if you get out, we'll try bowl them out, sort of thing. But yeah, quite interesting. The man himself, he said he was more nervous on 190 than 390, which is probably something else to unpack.
I can't. Not a lot of people can relate to that, to be fair.
Yeah. He's never scored a double hundred, so he's pretty nervous for that. But obviously 390.
Well, he did go to it with a 6.
Slog sweep.
Really well by then.
He's even come out and said, like, the shot he played to score his 400 was ridiculous. It's like, yeah, come on, mate, you're on 400. Like, everything's ridiculous at that point.
Did the guy drop him at all? I think I might have heard that he got dropped in like the 90s, like just the normal 90s. And you'd think like, if he gets dropped in the 90s, you might sort of, he might get 100 and that's it. But no. Chalk him up for another 300.
The poor bloke at the other end was about 195, wasn't he? Did he get the chance to 200 or did they just declare?
Actually, I'm looking at the scorecard here. 191 not out.
This is a ruthless captain, is what I'm starting to see.
Well, I did read that. I think it might have been lunch or whatever, and then the coach gave him the option. They said, "You can go for 500, or we can declare and go for the win." Like, what's the guy supposed to say? What's he supposed to say?
That's one of those things where he's going to have to say, "Let's go for the win, boys." But he's lived. Well, that's where, as a coach, you need to go up to the guy and say, "We're going to give you the chance to go for this, so just go," because you can't let a batsman make that decision. That's not on.
They needed a lie detector. Just
they're
just like because my sort of argument, you kind of like you said, the batsman he's gonna make that call because he doesn't want to seem like arrogant or whatever, like even though he probably is, But he needed that decision taken out of his hands because it's one of those things. It's like Chamberlain's 100. Like people don't remember who won that game or what the score was, and they don't remember that his team were like fouling opposition so that they could get extra positions, and it was like really manufactured, and it wasn't quite in the flow of the game. And it would have been kind of similar if they just kept batting and he was getting 500, and the bowling team had to bowl their keeper and things like that. No one would have remembered that.
Yeah, I'd be livid if I was 35 not out and we declared denied the chance to get a 50. So I can only imagine how you'd feel when you're 400 not. Although, in saying that, maybe he was just completely over it by that stage.
Yeah,
must have been tired.
A couple of those shots, it looked like he was just swinging anyway. So maybe he thought, bugger this, I'll just take 400 not and call it a day.
Well, it's quite an outrageous sort of scorecard I'm looking at here. So obviously, you got Leicestershire made 584, and then Glamorgan are 2 down for 9 and all sorts of trouble, and North East walks in, and then him and Colin Ingram put on about 300.
Yeah,
and then this guy called Carlson and Billy Root, Joe Root's brother. So Carlson gets 9. He misses out on what he thinks is a row, and then Billy Root, he must have been padded up, like I would say, looking at this, about 90 overs, so like a day, just to get a first bowler.
Yeah, that does sting.
And then you're thinking, you might be thinking, the pitch might be breaking up a little bit. No. Chris Cook comes in and he gets 191 not out. So
do you reckon Cookie got the word as well? Like, do you want to go for your double 100 or should we declare?
I mean, that's pretty close. You're pretty close. Like,
you're damn close.
It's 2 hits.
You 2 overs. You surely give him 2 overs to get to his double 100.
You can do it in 1.
The only problem I think with this sort of thing is, what if you give the guy 2 overs to get to 200 and he's at 197? Then you've got to go, I guess we've got to give him another over.
Wow. I tell you.
And what if he only takes 1 off that over and suddenly you're 10 overs later and the poor bloke can't get there, but you can't declare?
Well, I did have a yarn. There was a fella, and I won't name names because a lot of people will know him, but it was in that declaration cricket when it's like there's 110 overs in the day, and this guy he hasn't scored a lot of runs for our team, for any team really, but he was on sort of 80 odd, and we said, we'll give you 3 overs or 5 overs, we're going to declare, 5 overs had gone past and he scored another 5 runs.
Yeah.
And he's on he's on 86, and we said, mate, you got one. We got 1 over. This is you're not even trying. You're just you're noodling it around. This is bad. And he holed out probably in the next 2 balls. So there you go.
Was he furious that you guys were pushing him, or?
I felt like we gave him a lot of time. Like it's sort of like, it's not like if they're having a go. It's one thing. But when they're just sort of scratching,
80 or 50.
He could have noodled his way to a more well-made 100 from what I'm hearing, though. So you've cost him.
Yeah, he could have. And then,
This is all going to depend on how close to that automatic declaration at 60 overs we were. Like, is it 58 overs and you've just gone, no, we need 2 extra overs, or are we talking? If we're in like the 42nd over, probably all good to pull pin on him. But I mean, if it's over 58 and you've got to do 10 overs later,
actually,
you've probably got to give it to him.
I might have got that wrong, actually. It might have been not automatic declaration. I think we might have been like 60, 63, 64 overs into it.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was drawn
unpopular opinion from what I gather, but I enjoyed declaration cricket.
Yeah,
I thought it was good.
It wasn't for me. I just felt like we were playing one-day cricket. We were still playing one-day cricket.
Yeah,
but it was.
The argument I had for it is the bowlers could bowl more, so I thought the standard actually just went up a bit. The better bowlers could just bowl more overs. That was the only reason I liked it.
Oh yeah, I mean you're playing with a red ball and it was moving around a bit more, so it was good in that respect. Very good. So are we? So what's our consensus? Are we in or out on the going for 500?
I think we're out on the coach giving him the option.
Yeah.
It should have just always been the coach should have made the decision for him, but yeah, I think not out on declaring. You've got to let him have a crack at that, surely.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm probably like right as of now, it's hard to say that it was the wrong decision, but I reckon when we look back at this down the line, it's going to feel like the wrong decision.
Well, in your heart of hearts, if your captain gave you the call, you're going to say, let's declare, but you want to bet on.
You want someone to do it. You want someone to take take the heat for you.
Yeah.
There's no way once they're celebrating that game, he hasn't said a few words of, you could have gave me a chance here, boys.
Starting today, you will play like winners, act like winners, and most importantly, you will be winners. If you listen and learn, you will win basketball games. And gentlemen, winning in here is the key to winning out there.
Let's move on to an extended coach corner. Yeah, if you do want a question read out, hit us up at maximumcricket21@gmail.com or a DM on Insta will do the trick. Or every now and then I will post on the story for a couple of questions. And we got a few this week, so we thought we'd do an extended one. We'll definitely do 2, and we'll see how we go for time. So this is sort of there's been a few stories about this one, but this particular question, so I thought we'll tackle this one. The question is Test or ODI format going to a downfall? So I guess this is in light of the Ben Stokes retiring from ODI cricket, as well as South Africa pulling out of the Australian ODIs in January, so they can make sure they have all their players for their own domestic T20 competition. I guess that's sort of their answer in the nutshell. I think ODIs are probably under the pump more. I think with Test cricket, you've got more of a history behind the game, and I think the players and the coaches and the administrators, they love the Test cricket more than any other format. I guess one of the arguments for ODIs is the ODI World Cup is arguably the biggest trophy in the game. So you probably struggle to just get rid of ODIs.
Yeah, I think you sort of hinted at it there, but I think basically Test cricket's always going to be there for probably the main reason that players view it as the pinnacle of the game. So every sort of professional cricketer, everyone I've sort of been around, like red ball cricket's where you want to make your name. So in that sort of sense, I don't think Test cricket's going to go anywhere purely because the players are going to drive it so heavily, because that's what they believe is the sort of their biggest goal in cricket. The Aussies always talk about getting that baggy green, like the Ashes are huge. Like that's just sort of the pinnacle for the players. And then, I mean, the money in T20 cricket is sort of how the game survives. So yeah, as you sort of said there, that one-day cricket, I mean, maybe the one-day just tours are going to have a bit of a downfall. But yeah, I think the World Cup's still going to happen. It might come around to that, it's a World Cup year we play more one-day cricket. But in general, I think if one of them was to go, I think it's one-day cricket. I saw Usman Khawaja was interviewed, and he said he actually finds one-day cricket a bit boring to watch outside of the Cricket World Cup, which was very interesting. But yeah, I think Test cricket's going to stay. T20 cricket's going to, keep the game alive. So yeah, if one's going to go, it will be one-day cricket, unfortunately. But as you said, the World Cup's still a huge, huge event. It's the biggest tournament in cricket currently. So yeah, it's hard to see it actually going because it is such a big part of the game. But that's probably my take on it.
Yeah, I think you've basically summed up every point there. I think the allure to one-day cricket is going to be that World Cup. It's also probably the format where you get the more, that in T20s obviously, is where you get the more countries involved. So that's one thing that obviously the Test cricket doesn't have. It is interesting though, because Test cricket's the one that people always talk about as being on the chopping block. It's obviously for cricketers itself, it's the pinnacle. But I think for fans or for the casual fans anyway, it's always the one that gets talked about as being too boring and not for the sort of the way the world's going, the fast-paced world. So that's always the one that gets talked about is actually going. So it's interesting now this one day is getting talked about. It is interesting though, because there's not many sports where there would be 3 full formats that actually get played like this. So it is an interesting dynamic there. Like you talk about there's rugby, and rugby has its 7s, but they're just completely separated. Like with cricket, you've obviously got a lot of players who play all 3 formats. And as the demand goes up and these TV deals go up and more games get scheduled, it probably is going to be players that say, we can't play all this. And that's when I think, as shown by Stokes, is where ODI cricket's going to be that one that misses out.
It's going to be interesting because, about all these players playing all 3 formats, because it does feel like that number is going to become less and less. I think in New Zealand it's probably more likely because we play less cricket and also we don't pay as much as other boards. So they kind of have to play all these games. Whereas like England, I was listening to Sky Sports the other day, and it's only Johnny Besso that plays all 3 formats.
Yeah.
Now, it's actually quite crazy to think that they've only got one player that does that now. And the schedule, it's probably down to the schedule because you've got this push and pull between international cricket and franchise cricket, and it doesn't look like the franchise cricket's going anywhere. In fact, it's probably extending further. Like just on that South Africa T20 league is basically fully backed by the IPL. Like they've got 6 franchises and they're all owned by the IPL. And I do wonder if this will keep happening. If more leagues, I think there's another league in UAE where they're going to have like 9 international players in one team instead of 4, and that's all IPL backed. And I do wonder if the IPL is just going to reach its tentacles out into the whole year. And then players are going to have to make these decisions. Do I want to play for less money for my country, or do I want to play? I can only earn money for so long. Do I want to do it just playing these T20 leagues? And it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, because it does feel like we're heading towards a football model where you've got like windows for international leagues, not windows for the IPL, windows for like test matches and World Cups and things like that. So it's an interesting time because the boards are just sort of cramming as much 50 over and 2020s as they can just to make some money. And it's interesting that what you said, Jacko, about Usman suggesting it's sort of boring outside of a World Cup. I kind of agree a little bit. I just feel like these games don't mean anything unless it's like in your country. And a team's touring for a big tour, these sort of like random tours don't sort of mean a hell of a lot. They'll just go somewhere, they'll play a few cash grabs, sort of T20s and 50 over games, and then they'll go somewhere else and do the same. And you just wonder what's it all for? Whereas sort of Test cricket, there's drama every day. There's a storyline every day. over a series, over an Ashes, or over something like that. Whereas you just don't get that as much with sort of bilateral white ball cricket.
And I suppose as well, like they World Cups, we've got double T20 World Cups in between. So it's like, in terms of like, you're looking at what's coming up, you have to be like, oh, this one day series matters heaps because the World Cup's ages away. So you're sort of like, oh, well, we're not actually getting a gauge of where the team's at. There's no current excitement for the one day World Cup. It's like, was that T20 one that's looming? So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. And I think where cricket's going, that ICC Future Tours plan, as you said, is packed with franchise cricket. So, I mean, it could just be a test window twice a year and you play a couple of series there where you can, and then, yeah, it's just franchise cricket year round.
Yeah, I mean, I liken it a bit to the NBA regular season, I guess. They've sort of, because the players have somewhat leading this in basketball, where the playoffs are really all that matters now. So I think that's, I guess, in a way, that's somewhat what these ODI feels like. Like they're all they're just testing grounds to find your best team, and then you just really rally for that World Cup. So the results aren't mattering as much as just finding who's your best 11 come for that World Cup. So I liken it about that way. I think, as you said about T20s, I think we're probably not far away in a few years where you're going to see a young player pick 2020s over the country and just be a full-time T20 player. I think we will see that in the near future.
Well, it's a good point because, like we sort of talk about like Test cricket being the pinnacle and that sort of stuff, and for the players and the coaches and stuff, and that's all true now. But you do wonder as this generation, because I feel like that's what we grew up with. As that generation phases out, like you said, Simon, will that same love and desire for Test cricket be there? I'm not too sure. I guess that's what we'll find out.
They will all survive. It may change. It may change where ODIs. There is just 3 teams. There's Test teams, ODI teams, and 2020 teams, and maybe the ODI teams will be sort of your weaker 11, but that might be just how it goes. But they'll still have dates to fulfill, so I think the games will all survive. But for now, anyway.
Well, yes, that sucks. I think they're just scheduling these stuff because the boards need the money. So
yeah.
Whether they have, it's probably like you said, Simon, the NBA, where the owners need the money. They don't necessarily care if all the players are playing. They just need the games played. So so that they can still make that money. We'll move on to our next question. This is more I guess technical stuff. We've got a fella here. How do I improve the way I play pace? There's a few levels to this, and we'll first of all, I reckon, like short term, you've got to fake it till you make it. And what I mean by that is, if you're already worried about playing pace, once a fast bowler knows that the batsman can't handle the pace, they're already 1-0 up. And we've got Jack. I might hand the start of this to you as a fast bowler. What's it like when you know the batsman just can't handle you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting one because you sort of stand there and you just think, you sort of see a few cues. It's sort of, for me, it's normally the back foot. Its first action is towards the umpire, the square leg umpire.
Oh yeah.
You see that. You see that and you get a good idea. I mean, guys standing outside leg stumps always a funny one.
Just trying to access the offside.
Yeah, notoriously the easiest place to play on a good length outside your off stump. Just get more access to that. No, it is an interesting one because you do have that. Right, I know I can bowl quick here and just try to clean them up, but still most guys are good enough to sort of keep it off their poles. Yeah, I mean, if it's coming from a young lad, it's probably going to be different because in age group cricket, there's always going to be a guy that goes first, and he is probably a lot quicker than guys can actually handle sometimes. But yeah, as you said, I think it's fake it till you make it. Like, you've got to have that body language right, because if you're telling your body, like if you're reading your body as it's scared, you're going to react in that manner. Whereas if you can just be like, sort of flip it on its head and be like, this guy's bowling quick. This is going to be a good challenge, and sort of get excited for that challenge of facing quick bowlers. Then you're probably going to turn your mindset around, which is then going to make it easier. And I mean, if you're a young nipper, the other option is get the sling as fast as you can and just get used to it.
That was sort of where I was heading. So I guess like when you got short-term stuff is if I'm batting and like and a bowler's noticeably too quick for me, you can't let them know, first of all, that they're too quick for you. You can't sort of, body language is key. And the other thing is I found is sort of shortening your back lift. So you'd like actually, because the ball's faster, so you don't actually have to hit it very hard. You just got to basically sort of guide it through the slips for as many times as you can, and deal with as much abuse as you can until you go out. But I guess short-term training-wise is generally if you can't handle the pace, you're probably scared of the short ball. So what you want to do is how to handle the short stuff first and foremost. So you don't necessarily have to be Ricky Ponting pulling it because the guy's too quick. So you don't really, but you want to be able to be comfortable ducking, getting back and across, working off your ribs down for one, get off strike, just so that you and get a good cut shot. So that if he gets wide, you're still scoring runs. So that in the back of your mind, if he does drop it short, I can handle it to a degree.
Yeah.
And once you're not, if you've got in the back of your mind, I can't handle the short stuff. You're never going to get forward. It's all you're going to think about. So that's something that I would do. Long term, it's all about building up your pace tolerance, isn't it? But like not too quickly. So if you do it too quickly and you're facing 99 miles an hour and you're doing all the stuff in the bowling machine, your technique's just you're not gonna do anything well. So it's about, I always found like a lot of younger brothers and like a lot of younger siblings, they tend to handle pace a lot better than like the older counterparts because they're used to facing their older brother or their older sister or hanging around their older brothers, mates and that sort of stuff. And I just think naturally they'll get better. So, you can sort of build it up where you can start slow and then just get on the bowling machine, just get quicker and quicker. And just, you'll know, and your confidence will get up and up. But that's probably the only way you're going to learn how to face pace is you're going to have to face pace.
Definitely. You've just got to, and I mean, it's a bit of a cliche of be comfortable being uncomfortable, but I mean, at proper pace, like it is uncomfy, and that's basically all you can do is to try and to get used to it long term. Another thing short term, and this is coming from the tail ender in myself, is buy a chest guard, buy an arm guard. Like, don't be worried to sort of have a bit more extra protection, because just that feeling of like that could hit me and that could hurt versus like, oh, that's hit me on the chest guard and I'm actually okay, can actually make a bit of a difference just in your mentality when you're batting there. So, I mean, I've copped a fair few sprays for looking like a marshmallow man and the Michelin man just for having a chest guard on. But I mean, at the end of the day, like it does just help your mentality shift a little bit and can get that started. Because if you feel a bit safer, you're going to be a little bit more relaxed. You're not going to worry about it as much getting hit. Because that's what gets your fear going is, oh, if this hits me, it's actually really going to hurt. So, I mean, short term, buy a chesty, get a good arm guard on, get the right thigh pads, all of that jazz, get your inner thigh pads sorted. Because if you can add your protection up, you're going to take that fear away a little bit as well, which is probably a step in the right direction.
Lugsy, you got any experiences against some quicker bowling that you're probably used to?
Yeah, I think the first thing to note is obviously like no one necessarily enjoys it. So I think a fair point there to fake it till you make it sort of thing, and at least give off positive body language. Because I tell you, nothing turns a group of cricketers like into a pack of hyenas, like someone looking a bit scared of the short nut. You'll have every fielder chirping you, and then suddenly the bowler's running in harder and bowling even quicker. So
bowler's calling for a lid man.
Yeah. There's nothing better than a bowler stopping at the top of his run and just yelling, "Someone go under the lid." That's honestly one of the worst feelings as a batsman. I think, the clear head. I think any cricketer, when they say they're batting well, would say they would probably at their most clear. Just real focus on the ball and clear headed. And if you're thinking I'm going to get hit or anything, then you're not going to be clear in your thinking. I think it is a hard one to face really fast bowling, because that is one of the things that's hard to practice against. It's why I guess as a leg spinner, Shane Warne was so good and took so many wickets, because it's not like you could just face a Shane Warne in the nets. It is really hard to face real good fast bowling. So just be clear in your thinking, and as you've all said, you've got the bowling machines these days, or if you're in the nets and the guys aren't quite as quick as what you might come across in a game, bat out to your crease a bit, just do all the little things. I think I was actually got spoken to by Nathan Astle at a wee seminar thing as a youngster, and he actually was saying how scared he was to face the West Indies. He was a young bloke and they were all bowling quick, and he actually got pinned a couple of times. And he said it was the best thing for him. He said just knowing that you can get pinned, but you're out in the middle, your adrenaline's up a bit, and he said it's actually not the worst thing. You just sort of take a bruise, and once you realise it's not actually that sore, that can actually be a real bit of freedom for you. So just take on the challenges, as you've said, Munter. I think be positive and see it as a challenge.
It's like I've sort of talked about defending like pace, but you can also, like, I do hate cliches, but like when someone says like, "Oh no, it goes faster than the boundary," sort of thing, you love that when it's at your head and things like that. But the thing is that if you do get any width, you can just throw your hands at it. For so many reasons, because if it's quick for you, it's quick for the slip cordon, and they ain't gonna want to catch it. So if you throw your hands at it, there's a good chance you can either just sort of get a wee nick over the slips, or you can actually sort of punish them through the covers. 'Cause sometimes like the quick bowling like comes on quite nicely. Obviously when it's too quick and you're struggling. But like sometimes it's harder to face slower bowling than sort of quicker bowling. If it's like you're talking about scoring runs and not getting hurt, that's a different story. But if you did take them apart for an over or two, that's one way to get rid of them. Then someone else has to bowl. So that's
or you hole out and you're in the shed anyway.
Yeah, that's it. That's brilliant.
If you can get a quick single, they're a lot easier face from the not strikers end.
Yeah,
get yourself off strike.
Best place to face the quicks is at the non-strikers.
That's a good piece of advice.
Really, really lean on that bat at the other end. Keep your gloves off.
Cricket's a selfish game.
You've
got to look after number one.
As a nipper, I was playing against Corey Anderson when I was about 15, and he was obviously like a man child, and like at 16 he's playing for Canterbury, and I was out. I think he bowled like a 7-over spell, and I was out there for all of it, and I faced 3 balls.
That's nice.
So I've done my job. I didn't lay a bet on all 3 of them, but I did well at not running. That's what I did well at.
And you've kept that up ever since.
Yeah, certainly. I did it. There was another one where we played against. We were supposed to play against. Were you playing that game, Jacko? We played against Lockie Ferguson at Club Nationals.
Nah, that was the year before I came to the club.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, well, Lockie Ferguson was bowling first change, and I was opening the batting, and I just decided to swing at everything, just so I could like get out before that he bowled. So that worked out well. So I just got it.
That was at the tiny number 3 ground at Cornwall Park as well, wasn't it? So a good excuse to be like, oh, it's tiny, I can swing for the fences.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, that was like we had like I don't know if we've got Auckland listeners that have played at Cornwall Park, you'll know the number 3 ground. Basically, like Lockie Ferguson has 4 slips and they're all on the boundary. It's like they had 4 third men. And like we've got guys nicking it through the cordon for 6, sort of thing. And it was quite a spectacle. This was a young Lockie Ferguson. There's a few other stories from that tournament for another day, I think.
Maybe for the Patreon listeners.
Yeah. Or if we ever do get or Lockie, if you're a friend of the show, if you ever do come on, I'd love to hash that out. hash that spell out, to be honest. So we've got some good yarns from there. I think we've got even like Robbo, like our captain, Tiger Volt, famously. He probably did the opposite of the body language thing, where he famously always batted at 4, and then for this one game, batted at 5, and promoted a teenager to 4.
That's right out of the Stokesy camp from that last year.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a young Reece Bailey. It was the Nighthawk, I think. Righto, team. That's us for another week. Thanks to our award-winning guests or co-hosts, Lugsy and Jacko, and of course, thank you to our Academy Award-winning listeners for continuing to listen to this dribble. While you are here, chuck us a wee like, a subscribe, a rate, and a review, if you will. Helps the cause. And if you're feeling very generous, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/maximumcricket. But in the meantime, Lugsy and Jacko, have yourself a great week. Jacko, great week at the cricket. We'll catch you next week.
Cheers, Munter. See you, boys.
Too easy. Cheers, mate. Get ya.